There is a sacred silence that exists before the world awakens. It is not just the absence of noise, it is the presence of possibility. To rise before the world is not a command to simply wake early, but to enter a space untouched by the demands of others. In this space, the mind is still uncluttered and the spirit unburdened. Here, you remember who you are before roles and responsibilities take shape. The first breath you take in solitude carries the weight of intention. Before the rush of thoughts, before the weight of tasks, that breath is a mirror. It shows whether you begin in control or in chaos. To breathe deeply in these early moments is to greet the day as a master, not a servant. Every sunrise becomes a ceremony, not an accident. Before the eyes of the world open, your eyes should be open inward. In this silence, you see the ripples of your own mind. You observe its drift, its fears, its hesitations. This is not the time to run away from these patterns, but to witness them with clarity. When you begin the day with such observation, you do not fall prey to reactivity later. There is strength in simplicity. The act of sitting, stretching, or walking slowly in the blue hour trains the nervous system to soften. It trains the body not to leap into the day's fight, but to step into it with control. Rushing belongs to those who have lost their rhythm. Stillness belongs to those who own their direction. To rise early is to claim that direction. Morning is when the internal master and the external world decide who will lead. If the day begins in screens and noise, the self is drowned. If it begins in silence and breath, the self commands. This is not discipline for its own sake. It is alignment. The body wakes before it is pulled. The mind calms before it is scattered. This habit is not built in a single attempt. It is cultivated by returning to it again and again until it becomes a way of being. The body resists at first. It seeks comfort, but you are not here to be comfortable. You are here to be prepared. And the one who is prepared before the sun rises walks through the day without trembling. It is in the early hours that vision is clearest. The absence of noise allows truth to echo. You may hear guidance that is drowned later by responsibility. A thought, a realization, a decision. These seeds grow not in noise but in solitude. Morning stillness is not an escape from the world. It is your chance to step into it with power. This rising is a ritual of respect, not just for the day, but for yourself. When you rise before the world, you are not ahead in hours. You are ahead in presence. The day becomes something you walk through consciously, not something that drags you unconsciously. You no longer chase clarity because you have already met it at dawn. Motivation is a spark. It appears brightly, then fades without warning. It is emotional, reactive, and fragile. To rely on it is to live at the mercy of moods and conditions. But discipline is not reactive. It is the structure you choose when inspiration has vanished. It is the force that moves you forward regardless of how you feel. The one who waits to feel ready rarely begins. The one who moves despite resistance understands the truth. Progress does not depend on desire. It depends on commitment. Discipline is the choice to act without permission from the mind. It is the agreement you make with yourself that holds even when no one is watching. When a practice becomes a habit, it is no longer a question. It becomes part of identity. Discipline is not punishment, it is design. Through it, you remove the need to negotiate with yourself. When to rise, when to train, when to work. All of these become pre-decided. And in that space of structure, freedom is born. Motivation may push you when conditions are right, but discipline carries you when they are not. Rain or shine, peace or chaos, your path continues. The inner voice that says, "Not today," grows weaker in the face of daily practice. The muscles of willpower strengthen only through repetition. Discipline becomes the rhythm that drowns out excuses. In the beginning, discipline feels heavy. It demands effort, time, and resistance against comfort. But with time, it transforms. The body learns to move without being forced. The mind begins to trust your own promises, and soon, what once felt like a burden becomes a source of power. Discipline turns choice into instinct. The disciplined path is not louder, it is steadier. There are no dramatic highs, no crashing lows. There is simply movement, progress measured not in explosions, but in quiet persistence. This steadiness creates strength, not just physically, but mentally. The ability to continue, regardless of circumstance, becomes your foundation. Many chase motivation because it feels good. It excites. It promises transformation without cost. But discipline asks for sacrifice. It requires saying no to distractions, no to convenience, no to comfort. It is forged in repetition, in boredom, in silence. And it is precisely in these places that true transformation takes shape. To choose discipline is to choose the path of responsibility. It is to step away from waiting and into doing. The one who is disciplined does not ask for the right moment. They create it. They do not hope for strength. They train for it. This path is not easy, but it is clear the body is the gateway to the present moment. Through its motion, the mind is reminded of the now. When you engage the body with deliberate intent, you leave behind the chaos of thought and return to what is real. Movement is not just physical. It is a purification of scattered awareness. Each breath taken during mindful movement anchors the wandering mind. The rhythm of motion becomes the rhythm of attention. The more you feel the stretch of a limb, the ground beneath your feet, the flow of your breath, the less you are caught in yesterday or tomorrow. Movement becomes a meditation without stillness. Stillness of the mind does not arise from trying to stop thought. It emerges when thought has no space to run. When the body is fully engaged, the mind follows its simplicity. No room remains for distraction, regret, or anticipation. The clarity that escapes sitting in stillness often finds you when you are in motion. To move the body each day is to respect its wisdom. Tension that builds in the mind finds release through the limbs. Energy that stagnates in the heart is freed through exertion. Whether walking, stretching, striking, or flowing, the discipline of physical movement trains not just muscles, but attention. Repetition trains awareness. The more you repeat a movement with precision, the more you see its detail. In that detail, the mind has no choice but to be present. The swing of a leg, the turn of the hip, the angle of the breath, all of it requires full presence. And in presence, peace arises naturally. Movement is not only for strength, it is for alignment. When the body is trained to move with control, the mind learns to follow with discipline. A restless body often mirrors a restless mind. But a body that has learned rhythm, posture, and focus becomes a container for clarity. The two are not separate. They reflect one another. There is no need to seek complexity. Simplicity practiced deeply is more powerful than novelty practiced poorly. A single movement, performed with full awareness, teaches more than 1,000 rushed techniques. When movement becomes a ritual, it brings structure to the mind. When it becomes intentional, it becomes transformative. The body, when treated with care, becomes a temple for the mind. Its training is not for appearance, but for function. Its stillness is not for rest, but for renewal. Each time the body is moved with purpose, the mind is reminded that peace is not found in escape. It is cultivated through alignment. The first hour of the day is not just a segment of time. It is a doorway. What you allow through that door sets the rhythm for everything that follows. To guard it means to protect your mind from intrusion, to shape the beginning of the day with intention rather than habit. This is the time to command your inner space before the outer world makes demands. If you reach first for your phone, your mind is no longer your own. You have handed your awareness to noise, comparison, and urgency. But if you begin in silence, in breath, in motion, you reclaim ownership. The first inputs of the day become the seeds that grow through your thoughts and actions. Choose carefully what you plant. Guarding the first hour is not a rejection of the world. It is a preparation for it. Before conversation, before information, there must be orientation. The mind must be aligned before it can serve with clarity. The heart must be still before it can respond with strength. If you begin rushed, you will remain behind the entire day. Your focus is strongest when it is fresh. The morning carries a rare clarity untouched by distraction. In this time, write, reflect, breathe, move. Do what returns you to yourself. The purpose is not productivity, but presence. When you are fully present in the first hour, the rest of the day becomes a continuation of that presence. Routines shape reality. When you begin the day with a clear practice, you train the nervous system to expect order. The mind begins to associate waking with awareness, not anxiety. This repetition becomes identity. You no longer need to remember who you are. The first hour reminds you every day. Even in the smallest spaces, the ritual can live. A stretch, a cup of tea, a journal, a breath. None of it needs to be dramatic, but all of it must be deliberate. The key is not complexity, but consistency. What is done with reverence shapes character. What is done with noise invites chaos. To guard the first hour is to send a message inward. I am not here to react. I am here to direct. It is not about how much you do, but how clearly you do it. Begin with one act done fully. Let that act echo through the day. Even a single conscious breath can be enough to shift your entire rhythm. This hour must be yours, not borrowed, not shared, not dictated. It is the moment you set the internal compass. All things that follow will align with it or compete against it. The more fiercely you protect this time, the less you are pulled by what does not serve you. Growth does not come from comfort. It comes from friction, the moment where effort meets resistance. To do one difficult thing daily is to willingly step into discomfort, not to punish the self, but to refine it. Each day offers the chance to confront something that the mind would rather avoid, and in that confrontation, strength is born. Difficulty reveals truth. When you choose the path of resistance, you meet parts of yourself that remain hidden in ease. You learn how your mind reacts to fear, how your body responds to stress, how your breath shortens in uncertainty. This awareness cannot be gained by thinking. It must be earned through action. It does not matter what form the difficulty takes. It could be rising earlier than comfort allows. It could be completing a task long delayed. It could be having a conversation you've avoided or enduring the silence you fear. What matters is that the task challenges your edge, that it asks more from you than what is habitual. Discomfort is a teacher with no soft voice. It speaks in tension, in resistance, in the urge to stop. But if you stay present with it, if you breathe through it instead of escaping it, you discover it has no real power over you. Its grip is illusion. And each time you face it, that illusion weakens. The body and the mind adapt to what is repeated. If you avoid what is hard, you teach your system to shrink. If you approach it daily, even in small ways, you teach yourself to expand. Courage is not a trait, it is a result. It is the product of small, deliberate choices to stand where it is difficult to stand. Do not seek drama in difficulty. It is not about extremes, it is about consistency. One cold shower, one honest journal entry, one extra repetition in training, 1 hour without distraction. These are not grand gestures, but they are deliberate disruptions of comfort, and it is in those disruptions that transformation begins. Over time, what once felt impossible becomes normal. What once triggered hesitation becomes your daily ritual. You begin to look for challenge instead of avoiding it. The difficult becomes familiar, and what is familiar is no longer frightening. This is how resilience is built, not in theory, but in practice. To do one difficult thing daily is to remember that fear does not need to be defeated, it only needs to be met. With each meeting, you walk with more awareness, more steadiness, more intention. The path of strength is walked one decision at a time, and every day offers a new opportunity to take that step. The final hour of the day is not a time to escape. It is a time to return. After the motion, the noise, and the demands, the mind must be allowed to settle. Yet many end their days with distraction, flooding the senses instead of cleansing them. To end with reflection is to close the day with awareness, not with noise. Distraction numbs. It fills the space where insight could emerge. Screens, scrolling, endless stimulation. They steal the opportunity to understand what the day has taught. Reflection, however, creates space. It invites you to observe rather than consume. It allows the residue of the day to be processed, not ignored. To reflect is to ask without judgment, where was I present? Where did I drift? What did I choose and what did I allow? These questions are not meant to criticize. They are meant to illuminate. Without reflection, mistakes repeat. With reflection, even failure becomes instruction. The body also requires closure. Just as we stretch and cool down after training, the nervous system must be guided out of tension. Breath slows, muscles soften. The eyes close to the outer world, so the inner world can speak. This is not rest. It is recalibration. It is how the self prepares for stillness with grace. The space before sleep is sacred. It is when the unconscious mind begins to take the shape of what you last offered it. Feed it with chaos and it wanders. Feed it with clarity and it integrates. A single moment of stillness, a journal entry, a quiet walk, or a seated breath can shape the quality of rest that follows. Reflection is not reserved for special days. It is a daily discipline. It trains the mind to pay attention, to see patterns, to recognize what nourishes and what depletes. The more often you reflect, the clearer your decisions become. Awareness increases not through effort, but through observation practiced again and again. The evening is a mirror. It shows not only what the day contained, but who you were within it, how you spoke, how you reacted, how you carried your values. In this mirror, you are given the chance to adjust, not tomorrow, not next week, but now. Each night becomes a quiet renewal, a return to what matters. To end the day with reflection is to remind yourself that nothing you do is automatic, that every action leaves a mark, that even in the stillness there is movement, the movement inward, where understanding is cultivated, and where the seeds for the next day are quietly sown.